6 o'clock in New York City, and we start this hour of Fox and Friends with a Fox News alert and an exclusive, an up-close look at the crisis at our southern border in the Rio Grande Valley.
All right, you got border agents fighting through rough terrain and a surge of migrants. Nearly 200 illegal immigrants, by the way, apprehended in a matter of just hours in front of our cameras.
Griff Jenkins watched it all unfold, and he joins us now live in McAllen, Texas. Griff?
Good morning, Brian Ainsley and Steve. I'm just feet from the border here in McAllen. But, you know, the Border Patrol is stretched thin. They're overwhelmed. They're tired, and they have had a surge of migrants that is unbelievable, topping 10-year highs. But when some of those migrants don't want to be caught, it hasn't stopped the dedication or drive of our men in the green uniform. Watch. It's unbelievably difficult terrain. I'm cut, my glove torn. These men rushing through here, and we found a group. This is the first one we found. Just nothing but thorns, bushes, bugs, snakes, spiders. This is the spotlight. You can see this being put. There they are. They've got two more.
Both of them actually tried to run. This one right here was hiding underneath this brush to my left, and this one right here got up from the brush and took off running southbound, but I was able to get him before he got away.
This is the brush underneath here, right where I am, where the last illegal crosser was laid down, and Herman had to crawl in like this and go through these bushes and thorns. It's just treacherous. And there are other challenges on the border. We had, as you mentioned, Brian, nearly 200 of the family units surrendering to our agents there, Agent Herman Rivera. But while we were having groups of 50 or 60 coming to us just a half a mile up or down the border to our east or west, we had smuggling efforts going on and other groups coming. It just won't stop coming. It was 12,000 in the last 12 days yesterday. We'll find out what today's numbers are. They will be high again, and we have the problem with where to put them. They can only take 3,300 in the detention custody area here. They've got 6,000. The numbers are going the wrong direction. We went into the processing center yesterday and saw just how hard they're getting hit. They have $12.5 million in their budget for the facility for fiscal year 19, and they've already spent that. They're going to need more money as well. This, as Secretary Nielsen will make a trip today to Yuma, Arizona. And while a lot of people here in Texas are still fearing the president might shut the border down, the president as well will travel to the border on Friday to Calexico, California, guys.
So Griff, what we understand is catch and release is back. The AP reporting over the air in the New Mexico sector, they're letting thousands go into Greyhound buses and go into the city because they have nowhere to put them. Are you guys at that situation around there where people are just catch and release is back in full force?
Absolutely, Brian. The processing center we were at yesterday, which is where they go before they are put in a detention area, there's space for 1,500. They have 2,400. I asked the woman in charge in our off-camera briefing, I said, what are you going to do with them? She said, we have no choice but to release them. They will likely go to the Catholic Charities, Sister Pimentel, or other areas because they want to care for the migrants and their safety, not just turn them loose on the streets where they're very vulnerable. But the reality is the higher the numbers get, the faster they're being released. And when they get released, those that seek to not go through the proper legal asylum process, they just want to get caught and released, well, they're calling back home in Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, and the magnet and draw to make that 3,000-mile journey that I've now made twice is growing stronger.
Now, Griff, what if they're caught with drugs on them? Do they go to a prison, or do they go to those detention centers too, where they're caught and then released?
Case by case, but they will be prosecuted if they are smuggling. And the group we went in after, which took several hours, you should see our producer AJ. He's covered in marks across his face because you're just in such thick thorns. Yeah. They were evading capture. They will be prosecuted and likely all deported. We thought there were about 11 in there. We captured 8 of them. And so if you evade being apprehended, right, you will be likely deported quickly.
All right. Griff Jenkins, along with A.J. Hall, down on our southern border right there in McAllen. We thank you very much. It does sound as if the president has kind of been backing off on the I'm going to close the border unless Mexico helps us out, because yesterday in the Oval Office he actually praised the tougher Mexico enforcement of our border rules. You know, we had told yesterday they were thinking about a plan B where they close the border but they let commercial traffic go back and forth. But here's the critical number, and that is during the month of March, when there were, you know, the suggestion is 100,000 migrants heading that way. Only 90% of them went in spaces that were not the ports. So in other words, only 10% of the illegals were captured at the ports. 90% went between the ports. So in other words, if you close the ports, you close the roads, that's going to have little effect on illegals. And I think they realize that.
That makes sense. That's why the president is saying if we close some of these borders and we take the patrol officers and we put them in the desert areas, because that's clearly where everyone's going. Exactly.
Secretary Nielsen's going to go to the Yuma border today. She's going to be there most of the afternoon. The president's going to San Diego tomorrow, and hopefully something comes out of Congress, because that's where this thing's going to be solved. The wall is a separate issue. Meanwhile, Raul Ortiz is the deputy chief on the Rio Grande Valley sector of the border, and he talked about to Sean what he's seen.
Certainly, we're experiencing a crisis right now. So far, this sector has already seen 141,000 apprehensions this fiscal year. Just in the last 24 hours, we've made over 1,200 arrests. We seized 30 pounds of cocaine, 400 pounds of marijuana. All of us are stretched awfully thin right now. We need to make some changes to the loopholes out there.
Especially
and we need
sector.
to deter this traffic from actually crossing.
And speaking of Texas, yesterday, about 15 miles from Dallas in Allen, Texas, ICE had one of the largest workplace raids they've ever had. They arrested 280 workers at a tech repair company. Apparently they were working in the country with forged documents, something like that. They got tips from people who were working there, and they went in, arrested 280 people yesterday.
As the battle continues to secure our southern border, our next guest went to Texas to see things for himself.
Yeah, I watched them last night with Sean. Fox News contributor Lawrence Jones joins us live with a first-hand look from Laredo.
Hey,
Texas.
guys, how y'all doing? I'm live. Yeah, I'm live right here in front of the Rio Grande. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to talk to border agents in the Laredo sector, and they gave me a look on, you know, the speculation. Is this a crisis or is it not? Well, you hear from the horse's mouth. Take a look.
There's been a lot of reports about the crisis. Is it really a crisis?
Yes, there's absolutely a crisis on the border. Without a doubt, there's a national security crisis, there's a humanitarian crisis, and there's what we like to call a policy crisis. The humanitarian crisis you see every day, it's all over the news. It's a number of family units and children coming across, giving themselves up to Border Patrol. And the reason why they do that is because they know the laws that we have today will allow them to stay in the United States. Hear it from the transcriminal organizations. They're very organized, they're very smart. They always know what law enforcement is doing to try to stop their criminal activity, so they know that loophole in these laws. Out of approximately 170 miles of border in Laredo, we have 30% of that actually has a road that we can drive on that's on the border. And that's not one solid road. It's, you know, 5 miles here, then you get a 10-mile break, and then another 5 miles. It is very difficult for us to know what is coming across our border if we can't drive on our border. The situational awareness as far as technology. Our cameras that we currently have cover 30% of our area. So we have situational awareness of 30% of our area. There's 70% of that 170 miles that we're not sure what's coming in and what's coming across. And as you can see, the river's right there. That's Mexico on the far south side, and we're standing on the road in the United States. It'll take you about, 4, 5, 6 seconds to do this 40-yard dash to get into a vehicle.
And then they're off.
Right. Then they're either off into the neighborhood or around the other way, or they can just go right into these houses that are right up here. And they lead to the stash houses, which are deplorable conditions that they're stuffed into without any food, without any water for days at a time. This is where the kidnapping happens. This is where being held for ransom happens. This is where the rapes happen, when they're put in these deplorable conditions. But as you can see, what we're facing, a 40-yard stretch, there's nothing to slow them down in any way. There's vegetation everywhere, so we don't have the situational awareness. We don't have the impedance and denial. And then the response and resolved, well, we have that, but we have about 10, 15 seconds of it. We need more.
And this is why you say you need all parts of the border wall system for this to actually work. The camera right here.
Yes, sir.
We were talking about this earlier when we were in the eyes room,
Yes,
showing
sir.
us everything right there. So you got the camera there to detect sometimes what's going on. How long does it take you to get here?
That's just it. If we don't have enough personnel working this area and there's one guy that's assigned to maybe a 2-mile radius, and if we're on the other side of that area, it could take us 5 minutes to get here. If it takes us 5 minutes to get here, I guarantee you that they're going to be either in a house or a vehicle on their way somewhere into the United States.
Lawrence, are they able to patrol? Excellent job, by the way. Are they able to patrol the entire sector, 100% of it, or do they need more manpower? Yeah, go ahead.
They can't because they're responsible for the entire Laredo sector, but they can only confidently patrol 30% of that. That means 70% of the border is just open. And part of the reason is because there's only so much of the road. They'll notice some things on cameras, they'll get hits on things, but they just can't get to them. This goes back to the resources. And when these agents are by themselves, you know, most beat cops, you'll see them having a partner. A lot of these agents don't have a partner out there. They're by themselves. They strap a gun to the hip every single day, and they want to go home to their families as well. And they're being put in difficult situations.
Hey, Lawrence, are you going to tell me, and you answer this question, I don't want to lead the witness, but are you going to tell me it seems that a barrier wouldn't help them do their job in some way?
Look, this is not a political issue. They need a barrier. You know, a little bit of breaking news, Brian. Last night when I was out, and you'll see this on Handy Tonight for exclusive, we actually found 2 Chinese nationals there on the border. Now, last year, the Border Patrol noticed the Bangladesh, there was an uptick in there. But now, this past month, we've seen some Chinese nationals. So these people realize that this is an easy target, and they're going to Mexico to then cross the Rio Grande to get here in the United States.
Yeah, soon no one will be coming here legally. Lawrence Jones, thanks so much. I'll watch you tonight.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Guys.